A discussion on the topic back-end and operations. To moderate the session, we have Mr. Jayant Kochhar, who is the founder and CEO for Goldfish Retail Solutions. One of the pioneers in the retail industry, he was instrumental in bringing brands like Barista and Lacoste into India. Our moderator for the session is Mr. Jayant Kochhar. Mr. Kochhar, welcome. And joining him are our panel members, Mr. Ashish Garg, Operations Head for Fab Furnish, a project manager in operations, ERP implementation, business process design and CRM implementation. And we have Mr. Gaurav Vora, Director Dynapore. Gaurav was instrumental in designing the packaging standards for e-commerce packaging in India that we all use today. Joining them is Mr. Vishal Sharma, Vice President Strategic Initiatives for ShopClues, with 18 years of experience in marketing and sales in internet and banking, financial services sector. Also we have Mr. Ashish Shah, founder and CEO for Pepperfry, with 13 years of experience. Ashish has also worked at eBay and Bazi in various capacities. We have Mr. Ganesh Subramanian, CEO for Myntra. With 20 years of experience, he is responsible for the entire operations functions, including merchandising at Myntra. Also, we have Mr. Rishikesh Pore, Head Supply Chain Tesco Hindustan Wholesaling Private Limited, associated with Tesco for 3 years, during which he transformed the supply chain into highly dynamic systems and process-driven functions. And we also have Mr. Yashpal Huda from Safe Express. In fact, he has served in the Indian Army and now serves as a head for B2C services at Safe Express, and he's from SIBN. And finally, we have Mr. Dinesh Kumar, who is the head of e-commerce for sales at Gati. With 8 years of work experience, he heads the e-commerce for sales at Gati. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our panel members over here. The discussion on the topic back-end and operations. Mr. Kochhar, over to you.
Thank you and good afternoon. Okay guys, this is just what we were hoping for. The audience is sleeping, so we can also take 45 minutes to have a nice snooze on stage, and after that we can, that's one option, or we can have a really interesting discussion to wake everybody up. So which one should it be? I think we'll take a snooze. Okay, good afternoon everyone. Good afternoon. You really want to snooze? Can't hear me clearly. Okay, that's going to make it even easier to have that quick snooze. Okay, so I don't know if you heard all the introductions, but let me quickly again summarize and tell you what this fabulous panel we have here. We've got Ashish Garg, who's with Fab Furnish. He heads all India operations, and he has been with companies like Motherson Sumi, ThinkLink, Philips Electronics before that. We've got Dinesh Kumar, who's the sales head with Gati. We've got Gaurav Vora, who's actually a film star who's just come here by mistake. In his part-time, he also heads Dynacorp, which you'll see just outside. Next, we've got Vishal Sharma, who's VP of Strategic Initiatives with ShopClues, and again, rich experience with Standard Chartered Bank, GE Consumer Finance, iTrust Financial Advisors. We've got Ashish Shah, who's the founder and CEO of Pepperfry, who's been with Bazi, he's been with eBay before coming here. We've got Rishikesh Pore, who's currently the head of supply chain for a small company called Tesco. You might have heard about it. Before that, he's been with Mahindra British Telecom, a long career with the Tata Interactive Services, Tata Motors, Tata Capital, and Trent Hypermarkets. I can't even see who's here beyond him. Okay, so we've got Ganesh there, who's CEO of Myntra, and he's been with all the leading fashion brands, fashion retailers of the country. He's got really rich experience, Coats Viela, Urban Brands, Tommy Hilfiger, Reliance Trends, and Bharti Walmart. And to reach the last guy, I need a logistics expert. Fortunately, we have him here. He's Yashpal Huda, who's with Safe Express. And my name is Jayant Kochhar. I've worked a little bit in retail, started a brand called Lacoste about 20 years ago, started a brand called Barista about 10 years back. There was a guy, a comedian yesterday on stage here who looked at me and said, "You must be married because you're bald." Actually, it's not because I'm married, it's because I've been so long in the retail business, and that's guaranteed to drive anyone bald and give anyone a lot of pressure. Now the kind of retail business I did was a bit different from what most of you are trying to do. I worked in what is called the old world retail, where we had physical stores, people walked in, actually saw people face to face. The other big difference was that in those days people tried to make money, tried to make profits in retail. I don't think that's such an important factor anymore. For us we used to say the three most important things in retail are location, location, location. Today it's all about valuation, valuation, valuation. That's all that anyone cares about, probably not a whole lot else. But as it happens, we've got this very valuable panel who's going to share a lot of insights on what is probably the most important part of your business if you do want to make it profitable, which is back-end and operations. So to kick it off, I'm going to talk to somebody who's got experience. So that's Ganesh. I'm going to ask you that, having come from physical retail and worked with so many leading fashion brands, did you anticipate all the effort and all the work that would go into setting up your operations in an online venture?
I hope I'm audible again. Sorry. Okay, great. Right, let me, I just trying to see, if I can simplify, having been in offline retail for over 15, 16 years, only in the last 2 years I've been in online. And I was trying to see what are the similarities and what are the differences. In an offline store, you get to see your customer in front of you. Empathizing with someone when that person is in front of you is very different. But in online, your customer is, you can't see the customer. But how do you empathize with a customer when he is not in front of you was a fundamental difference I could see. And you might ask, how is it related to operations? When there is no store, where is your store? One is the digital screen you see. Your store is the warehouse. For us to sink in with that idea saying that your warehouse is your store, what does that mean? Everything you would do in a physical store with a customer is what you start doing in your warehouse. So that is a fundamental shift between an offline and online. For what's the kind of processes, what's the kind of systems, what's the kind of attention to detail one needs. And the next big difference was, yes, warehouse is your store. And in a physical retail, goods move in bulk. Goods move in cartons. Here it's a single piece movement. Attention to detail at the level of a piece was the next big difference. Then we looked at, who is the salesperson? The salesperson is not the screen and what you click and what the computer says. It is the delivery boy. The delivery boy in an e-commerce is the salesperson. That's where the moment of truth. For us to sink in saying that our delivery boy finally makes the sale, he is the person who meets a customer. And how do we ensure that that moment of truth is, creating loyalty and also repeat? For these are the three fundamental differences one could see. And also when in e-commerce, when people like us who trade over 100,000 SKUs at any point of time, there is so much of data. What do you do with all of this data? See, in a physical retail, if I ask you, who touched which product when, there is no clue. Here is an availability of that data from a back-end perspective. When you have all of this data, what sense can you make out of it? For the kind of skill we need in back-end to make sense out of what the customer is interacting with your product was the next biggest difference I could see from an offline to an online business. I would leave it there.
Okay. Ashish, you've of course been in online for a long time, but what are your thoughts on the differences between the back-end supply chain for on and offline?
Yeah, so I'm audible, right? So just to add to what Ganesh mentioned, in my mind, in an offline store, in an offline business, what the sale actually concludes when the customer chooses to buy a product in the store. For an e-com, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello. Yeah, and for an e-commerce company, the biggest difference is, when a customer chooses to buy a product on my site, that is where, the sale gets initiated. And every other work, which is around the sale, actually starts when a customer swipes his card online and chooses to buy. So, it starts with the kind of skill sets that you would build for an offline company to an online company. I think the kind of people required, the skills required to manage an online e-commerce business is very different. in e-commerce business, you want people to manage your sellers at the back end. So someone like Pepperfry who manages a marketplace, starting from fetching that item from the supplier to packing that item to shipping that item, everything is managed in-house, right? And therefore, the kind of people that you need to fetch that item within 2 days and deliver 90% of them within 2 days is something that you need to build. How do you pick up items from 90% of the sellers within 1.5 days and ship it out in 2 days, right? So I think the kind of skill sets that are required are very different. As I said, the business in itself starts when a customer has swiped and placed an order online. And in an offline business, the sale actually gets concluded, when a customer chooses to buy.
Okay, thanks. Let me come to Rishikesh and to the other Ashish here and ask you that you both have a lot of expertise in supply chain, in operations. What do you think can be one key thing that e-retailers should be concentrating on most that they're not currently doing, or not currently doing? What would be your?
Yeah, I think as just mentioned, in traditional retail, the cycle kind of ends when the sale happens, right? Whereas in online retail, the cycle just starts when the sale happens. And as Ganesh also mentioned that your delivery person who goes to the customer is actually the face of your company. So when you design your processes and your systems, you've got to keep the customer in mind. Traditional retail supply chain, you would not have thought about it. All you cared about is, I have an order, I have to pick up the stocks and I have to deliver it to a back of the store and it gets displayed and so on and so forth. But in online retail, that is not the case. In fact, the supply chains and operations have to do a bulk of the work there. So whosoever is venturing out into e-commerce space, you keep that perspective in mind. That the traditional perspective, you'll have to toss it out almost out of the window. Think customer first and think it through all stages. At all touch points, whatever you do, how do I pick, how do I pack, when do I deliver, how do I communicate to customer, what happens to my returns, how do I process the refunds, everything. All of that now becomes the back end and the operations. So you got to be very, very careful and conscious of all of these things. So maybe the supply chains of the previous of the brick and mortar era might not have had to be so conscious about the customer experience, whereas now that has changed. Yeah, so that I think would be my crucial input to this discussion.
Hi. The other thing which we all talk about is one of the critical things which anyone who is entering into the e-commerce world is the last mile delivery. So it's basically, again, like adding on to what Ashish and Ganesh were saying, but into it, like once you are into an offline store, the customer is coming to you, you are delivering the product then and there itself. But if you go into an online store, it's about giving him the product to the last mile to his home. And the customer can be like from Tier 1 city, Tier 2 city, Tier 3 city. So if you are entering into an online world, how are you going to actually cater the demand of customer to provide the product at his place, at his time? So there are the criticalities, which is one of the biggest criticalities. You can have partners into it, or you can go into your own domain, but there is no exact solution as of now in the industry for this.
Just want to add on to the last mile bit, right? We talked about last mile is where the moment of truth is. Whichever business you are doing it, for example, I can share from our fashion and lifestyle perspective. We were once thinking about which business we are in. If our delivery boys or the salesperson, what are they delivering? Are they delivering a parcel? Are they delivering style? For us, our delivery boys on the road in the bikes are the people who deliver style. What does that mean for us? The interpretation is very different. For we are today talking about grooming our delivery boys. How can you make people look good if you deliver something and you don't even look good? Right? So we talked about grooming our delivery boys. They get on the bikes and they go through stylist sessions and all of that. Right? And also create, empathy. Now, this is very relevant to fashion. But if you are in a business which has different attributes, what are you selling? For how are you going to use the delivery boy? For logistics in an e-commerce business is not about delivery as a process. It's far beyond the process of delivery. I just thought that I'll share.
I want to add to what Ganesh said. It is nothing about delivery. If it is not delivered, there is a huge cost to it. delivery boy was not prompt enough, or he was not behaving properly, or so X, Y, Z reason. There's a huge cost of shipment being taken from X location to Y and then bringing back to X location. So we need to make sure that delivery boys are trained properly and they are in a proper shape.
Just to add to what Ganesh said, I mean, you think about what he just said about the delivery happening for fashion. Just think how much more important that becomes when someone's delivering food for you. I imagine a guy who comes who's shabbily dressed or is sweaty. Would you like to receive your food from that kind of a person? Absolutely not. So grooming standards become very, very important. Again, on the last mile, when you're delivering food, you have food which is at ambient temperature. You have food which which needs to be chilled. You have food which needs to be frozen. Yes, India is not very big on frozen food yet, but there will be a time when all of these things happen. So, all of these things become very, very crucial. So you have delivery vehicles which don't exist in India, but in the UK, if you look at how Tesco delivers, you have a vehicle which has got 3 different temperature zones, frozen, chilled and ambient. All of this complexity has to be factored in, and I think India will be there very, very soon. You spoke about empathy. So delivery, the customer delivery associates who go to the customer's door, they're actually trained on what to say, how to greet, where to keep the stocks, to the extent that there was a time when, if a certain delivery person didn't go to a certain place, customers used to get upset. I was accustomed to this person coming and delivering to me, why have you changed this? So this is the kind of feedback that we've received back from customers.
Just to add over there, I believe the choice of for a marketplace or a retailer to do the last mile delivery is dependent on what kind of product categories that you're dealing with. What kind of categories you are dealing with. For example, sometimes you're not left with a choice, right? If you are in a business which requires trials, for example, if you're shoes, you would send out 2 shoes, 2 pairs of shoes or 3 pairs of shoes, and a couple of pairs would come back, and therefore it is important for a retailer to manage those returns really well. Sometimes you are in a business where you are selling furniture, and therefore doing it yourselves is very important, because there is no other, you can't copy, right? There is no one else in the country who has done deliveries to 800 locations, towns and cities in the country for furniture items. The kind of experience that a customer would look for in those categories would be very different. They want you to open the item, they want you to install the item, they want you to also clean up the floor and ensure that the carpeting services are provided. So in my mind, it is more dependent on what kind of business model that you operate in and what kind of product categories that you need.
Okay, very useful insights there. I want to ask now Gaurav and Yashpal, because both of you work with a number of different retailers. What would be your suggestion, or what do you think is the key thing for them, or what advice you have for them related to operations and delivery?
So I think, so this is Vishal. So the moment of truth which everybody is talking about here is last mile, which I kind of agree with them, but I think the origination, the start point is the seller, which is you, right? If you have and there are 3 critical things which you need to look at. So one is the product which you've got on your catalog. The second is the price, and the third is the picture, right? So for a classical marketplace kind of a model, these 3 P's are very, very critical. The second is meeting your SLAs, because that's the starting point of the entire delivery cycle. So the last mile delivery, see, the moment of truth is delivery, right? So if the starting point, and you don't start with the correct SLAs, the moment of truth, whether you have the best of the guys delivering the product, will not work out. So the e-tailer has to be cognizant of the fact that he's shipping out the product at the right time. The third is, how do you look at the marketing analytics which are provided by marketplaces, right? And there are lots of detailing around that which is given to you, right? Which is again very critical. So what kind of clicks are you getting on your store? What kind of clicks are you getting on each product? What is the conversion you're getting? What kind of focus you need to get to what level, right? That's the third point I wanted to make, which you should be aware about, right?
Okay, so we'll come back to that again, but meanwhile let's go back to Gaurav and Yashpal. Just what advice based on your experience across retailers would you have for retailers? What they got to focus on in operations and delivery?
So from what I hear from all the panelists and what I've seen in the past, the most important factor is to choose the right company. So because supply chain is all about the back end. How strong is your partner network? is going to be, your strongest link is as good as your weakest link. So we have seen during the Google Sale Festival or during festivals, retailers are all excited and they get lakhs of orders, but they are unable to fulfill because their partner network is not so strong. So I would really advise anybody venturing out to vet the partner network, check whether they are capable of the growth that you are planning for, and then move forward. That's the most important thing.
Good evening, everyone. I think that there are three very important things as far as e-commerce industry is concerned. To be very good about it, you need to have a great idea to start a business. You need to have a great IT team to ensure that they build in a robust IT platform to be able to deliver further. The third and the most important is the logistics part. Now it is very apparent from my co-panelists, most of them have been talking about the last mile delivery and with the fact the sales, the delivery boy being the sales person. Now as far as logistics is concerned, most of the traditional major logistic companies in India have woken up to the idea of e-commerce slightly late. And there are certain salient features which I think now that they have woken up and they are evolving into this mindset. The salient features are that these companies have the maximum serviceable area available in India which they can offer because they cover every square inch of India, if I may say so. Apart from that, they have a robust network, time tested, both by road and both by surface and air. Apart from that, they have inbuilt IT system, huge warehouses and offices in every part of India. Apart from that, they are aware about not many regulations, the government regulations, they are aware about that, they can help the e-commerce industry in that. And to be very specific in what all these people can do it, like if you are thinking about having a warehouse of your own where you are going to hold inventory, then there are certain kind of movements which these companies can help. One is the primary movement, that is from your vendor to the warehouse, stock transfer from warehouse to a different warehouse. Second leg is that they can manage inventory in totality. They have their own IT platform, so you need not invest in making your own IT platform. You can leverage that. The third is the last mile delivery, which most of us are struggling right now to get it to perfection.
Ganesh, what about you?
Yeah, some of the key success factors of what you need to be prepared for backend. An interesting thing is we haven't talked about you can only sell if something is available. Our experience is that we work with more than 600 partners, and many a times what sells the best is never available. The way the business works, just to give you a perspective, we were talking to a partner and said one of the top selling products is a top selling dress. We asked the partner, can you tell me the potential of this item? How many units that we can sell? The partner said yes based on the data we provided. So many days the product was there and this is the average rate of sale. And just to give you the real potential of that item, the partner said X and the potential was 92,000 times X. How much? 92,000 times X. Many a times we really don't even understand the power of availability. And particularly in fashion, you don't forecast much, you take long lead time. So when you really put a product, something really strikes. When it really strikes, there are products which get sold in just the first 4 days. What is the real potential is when it was available. When it was available in sizes, and what is the potential? And we were surprised to see. And when we asked people to guess, it is a top seller, can you guess how many times would be, whatever you have said, could be a potential? The best somebody in the room said was 4x. Because we couldn't think what is the potential of an item. So what I'm trying to impress upon is availability. If you don't have a product, you don't have sales. Whether you put in whichever forms of retail, whether it's physical retail or an online retail or a marketplace. So you really be successful once you have those products really available to promise and the retailer is promising.
Okay. Yeah.
what Ganesh said, and I believe that it's very important for you to work with your partner in a more transparent way. That way, it's very, very important.
Adding to what my co-panelist said, it is also important that how ambitious you are. Whatever platform, whatever setup you are preparing, is how much sustainable. You might prepare for 500 shipments a day, you end up getting 5,000 orders. So you need to keep in mind how ambitious you are. Where is the stopping line where you say to the partner, no, I cannot serve more than that. That is also one very, very important aspect of it.
Okay, so we've got a number of people here who have been very successful in e-commerce, e-retailing, and I'd like to ask some of them. So maybe let's start with Ashish. Having reached a certain level, what are the areas or aspects of your business that you're now looking at reinventing, that you would like to make some dramatic change or maybe even an incremental improvement? Which are the areas?
So, from an innovative perspective, if we say reinvent, one of the things which everyone talks about is cash on delivery. Like in India, being a cash on delivery driven model all completely. Now, there have been some innovations which have been coming up, and the people are, so there was cash before delivery which is started, and the things are coming up like card on delivery and all things. One of the innovative things is what I've seen recently in one of the cab service provider. So you store your card numbers on the website. When the product is delivered to you, and then after that you do the payment on the website, not through a card swiping, not through a cash, basically on the website only. So you have the trust of the website because you are still paying on the website, and the product is also delivered to you. So there's a technical thing required into it. The communication needs to be good, that the delivery boy needs to be communicated that the payment is done and then he gives the delivery. But these kind of innovations needs to come into the e-commerce industry in India to increase the sales and other things.
Vishal, I'm sure a company like Shopclose must be constantly looking at improvements. Currently, what are the areas where you're looking at maybe reinventing some aspect of your operations?
Yeah, Dan. So innovation is the name of the game, right? So you continuously innovate. You innovate in terms of how you give a better experience to the merchant. You recently built a mobile app, a pocket store for merchants where they can not even look at their order, they can look at their billing, they can upload catalogs, they can do whatever they want, right? So that was taking it to one level. The other part is that how do we look at our entire order management system integrated all the way up to with all our logistic partners, right? And not just that, not just the forward one, but the return management also, and making sure that the merchant is actively involved. See, look at the challenge from our perspective, and I'll talk about Shopclose, and pardon me for that. We have over 38,000 merchants, right? So we need to continuously invest into technologies, innovate, so that all our merchants or all our sellers are on the same platform in terms of how they're playing in the middle, in terms of how they're managing their catalog, are they getting the billings on time, and all that which goes. So there are lots of innovations as we go along, and I've talked about a few. I did mention about the marketing, the analytics which are there available at product level for sellers who have thousands of SKUs. We have detailed drill down of product level analytics which really help and take the merchants a long way.
So what about Pepfry or
Just to add to what Vishal just mentioned, for a managed marketplace, so I think fundamentally, the biggest proposition that a marketplace has is variety at a great price, right? A marketplace business is driven by the fact that in those categories customers look for variety. Having said that, you can't build variety when you start keeping stock, and therefore at the back end you are working on a stock which is actually with the supplier, and therefore sometimes it is it is very important to have fully integrated systems with them to ensure that they get the orders on time. When something is happening, you have a robust pickup mechanism. So for example, you should be able to pick items, because if you rely on getting suppliers delivering those items to your warehouses, it is going to take time, right? So how do you build a robust pickup mechanism to ensure that all items are fetched within one day? The third important thing is looking at how you invest in key account management or seller training to ensure that sellers are aware about the processes that your company runs on, to ensure that regular stock updates happen so that you don't go out of stock. The fourth important thing is delivering those items within those timelines. So therefore you have to, at times look at innovations like, can you be closer to demand, for example. So for example, if you're buying a, toaster, and if the order has come from Bangalore, can you ensure that the order of Bangalore is actually supplied by a supplier who's from Bangalore? So, so that you cut down on the shipping timelines and delivery timelines. So those are the kind of innovations that a marketplace needs to continuously do to ensure that sellers also scale with your business.
Any actual reinvention of any aspect of your business, Ganesh, that you're looking at, other than general innovation, but reinvention of something that you're already doing? You have a way to do this?
Being in the fashion business, one of the biggest pain points for a customer was size and fit, right? And the biggest question people ask is, how do I even buy something without even checking whether it fits me or not? And when we analyzed 70 to 80% of the reasons why products came back is because it's size and fit. And we were trying to invent what is that we can do for these customers. At that point of time, every retailer was offering only one service called free return, 30-day free return policy. We said when size is an issue, why are we doing return? Why not exchange? So we started a process called exchange. So if S size is what you've ordered and it is too small for you, you can just in a click of a button, you can say that now I want M size. The delivery boy comes to your house with M size, picks the S size back from you. Now, for example, you could look at what is relevant for your customer and provide some back-end solutions which will solve a customer pain point of today. So that's one innovation. So recently, some time back, we were thinking about what would be future of e-commerce delivery. So we did an innovation of delivering in 58 minutes. From the time order came to the time it got delivered in 2 cities, we did a pilot. For example, innovation can happen in various areas, but all the time we were thinking about how do we solve a customer's problem. But I think if we can keep customer first and say that what do I solve for this person, a lot of innovation then could add a huge amount of value to this.
This 58-minute delivery, I presume, has not happened yet, has it?
It happened as a pilot. Oh, that's the star mark, right? Conditions.
Because if you have a heart attack and you call an ambulance, it won't come in 58 minutes. You can get a pizza, yes, that's the only thing you can get in less than 58 minutes.
Innovation. If you ask any of the e-commerce companies, the major pain point that everybody has is RTO. How do we manage RTO? I think the complete ecosystem needs to be united. Probably suppliers from various regions needs to unite. Probably somebody from Delhi is shipping to Bangalore. For XYZ edition is not delivered, that shipment can be there with maybe logistics partner or the supplier who is based out of Bangalore. So that the cost which is being taken up by the e-commerce industry and the logistics industry can be saved.
Rishikesh, I'm going to be interested in hearing from you, some of the key things that Tesco does so well in the UK market, for example, in the online space, and maybe lessons that we can learn here. But before we get into that, I want to ask Gaurav and any of the others also who want to come in. What are the interesting innovations you've seen in the area of back-end operations across the world that you think would be nice to see in India also, which are not here?
It's a few things which are very interesting, which should come to India from this companies. One is in the pick and pack operation. Now Amazon has those robots on which the goods are stored. So when you place an order, the person doesn't have to go to the shelf and pick it up. The shelf will come to the counter. So that's a fantastic innovation. I'm waiting to see who gets it first in the country. And one other fantastic thing which is becoming very popular globally is, see, whenever you place an order, you are not sure what time the delivery boy will come. And he will have to come again and he will call you one number of times. So there is a new concept of locker delivery. So the e-commerce companies or a locker company will have lockers across the city, stations, malls, and on the way back, you can just pick it up from that locker. The goods are delivered to a specific locker number. So this is another, I think, fantastic innovation just waiting to come in the country.
And I suppose the way to deal with India's big issue, which is cash on delivery, is that when you go to pick up the thing from the locker, you also hand over the money to somebody that I guess could take care of both those. Anyone else want to come in with any innovations that are happening globally in the area of operations and back-end supply chain?
Yeah, so I'll come to the Tesco thing a bit later, but I think retail is in a very exciting phase right now, and more so supply chain. I mean, if you look at the traditional thinking around supply chain, that is just getting shattered right now. The typical linear unidirectional flow of supply chain as we used to know it doesn't exist anymore. It's just multi-dimensional currently. And that's the whole fun, right? Just toss your old concepts out and just come up with something new that works for here and now. I mean, crowdsourcing for deliveries, who would have thought about that earlier, right? Ask any old school supply chain guy and he would have, probably, shuddered. But that's what companies are doing right now, to break that or solve that last mile problem. How do I get my deliveries to customers in say, 1 hour or thereabouts? And that's what certain companies are doing. Amazon classically, for example, tying up with the United States Postal Service on Saturdays and Sundays when they know that the wagons or the vehicles that the Postal Service uses are lying idle. So they are milking that same asset which is lying idle for a longer period of time. Or for example, tying up with a cab company called Uber to deliver packages to customers. So there's this phenomenal stuff happening, and it's not in the traditional way of supply chain as we knew it. So all it needs is an open mind, to sort of break the barriers and push yourself to think about that next big thing that will make your operations more efficient and then delight the customer in the end. Speaking of Tesco itself, I think Tesco has been doing online grocery for a long period of time now, at least 10 years as far as I can remember, and they're pretty good at it. Just to give you some statistics, over Christmas, which is a six-week period, Tesco took in the UK 450 million pounds in just online sales, and that was through 1.5 million orders online, of which 30% came through mobile. So you can just see how much the shift is happening. So we've got about 1,700 click and collect locations all across UK. Now imagine how many you would need across India if you have to actually reach that kind of a scale. The lockers concept that you talked about is already there, and not only that, the lockers actually are temperature controlled. So if somebody's ordered frozen, it stays frozen there. Tesco has a device called Huddle. It's its own tablet, which comes preloaded with Tesco software. So getting your loyalty or knowing about the deals, offers, so on and so forth, it's all preloaded. And we've already sold a few 100,000 of those tablet devices in the UK. So there's a lot that's happening. I think innovation is the name of the game.
Okay, great. I think on that note, we'd like to ask if there are any questions from the audience. Okay, so you have the. Let's see. You get a mic over here.
My question is to the buying sneakers, the Myntra guy, always on a run and quick service. Now you are getting into marketplace, which is a challenge for most of the people who have just moved like Flipkart and all. So will the delivery experience which you spoke about, will it be the same, or will you be using your outsourced couriers now for your marketplace?
It's a good question. And, when most of the players went on marketplace, we did not go on marketplace. Purely, we felt that when you have one more element in the value chain, there is going to be some kind of discontinuity of customer experience. So we said that unless we perfect the consumer experience bit, we will not get there. So the option we have taken now is a very controlled marketplace where we do the entire fulfillment. So it's something that it's a product which comes into Myntra before it is getting delivered to the customer. So we own the fulfillment, we own the quality. So one of the reasons that you have seen us taking that step later. But having said that, because it adds one more step in the movement of goods, so from a delivery experience perspective, it adds to that extent an additional delta time there. So it might be slightly delayed, but we ensure that the quality and the experience is something that we want in the current form.
Okay, I'm going to just take off from that and ask Ashish and maybe anyone else who wants to take it. What are the other things that customers who want to sell through marketplaces need to be aware of and need to be conscious of in their planning? Retailers who want to sell through marketplaces.
One of the good things right now, so there will be lots of players out here who wants to put their catalog on marketplace. And so just a word of caution, when you enter into the marketplace, when you are doing it for yourself or for one of the players, you are actually knowing that, okay, you are going to pack it, you are going to pick it for one customer. But once you enter into multiple customer domains, so if you are going to do marketplace for lots of e-commerce companies, so you are actually going to have a very big technical team with you, because you have to integrate the inventory with you as what Ganesh said that there should not be any, so if the product is available, that is what is getting sold. If you are having non-available product in one of the website and you have available in one of the website, it is going to impact your brand. The other thing which is that don't go ahead with multiple customers, don't go ahead with multiple marketplace channels in one go. So you have to be very sure about choosing your vendor right, choosing your partner right.
Anyone else have any advice for retailers who want to sell on to marketplaces, sell to marketplaces?
Marketplace, I think pickup is a very, very big issue. For example, in Delhi, certain courier partners are picking up from 200 different locations. Managing those pickup in 2 hours window time is really, really difficult. So somebody needs to chip in between courier partner and the seller so that they can manage that. This is one important aspect of marketplace model.
More questions?
My question is related to talking about potential of availability of products. So I want to understand from you what is the relevance of fast fashion model that, for example, companies like Zara follow in marketplace to deal with the stock availability or integrating sell-through and stock availability.
This is actually a session on back-end and operations, so I don't think we're going to take that question. It's not really related to the back-end part. I'm sure there'll be another panel where you can get a better response to that. Yeah, Michael?
My question is to Ganesh. When you spoke about the 58 minutes delivery pilot, so does the customers actually want or this has been created like a 24 hours delivery or a 9 hours delivery, or maybe from 58 minutes this would go to a 28 minutes delivery meeting Domino's?
I expected some question on this because I think 58 minutes ago some people for sure. Now the whole thought was not about, I think first I just want to address your question, does customer really mind the speed of delivery? Let me give you some statistics. For all customers who got deliveries from Myntra within 24 hours, were 20 times more probable of repeating with Myntra and purchasing next time. So the repeat behavior had a very high correlation to speed of delivery. The second, the consumer experience also had very high correlation to repeat. Now, having said that, then we said that speed does matter. I personally spoke to lots of customers. There are customers who told me that the goods came faster than I thought it should come because they were prepared to the money. The committed date was, let's say, Saturday, and you end up reaching there on Friday. He said, "Why did you come now? I don't have money. Go back." Now, it's not about speed of delivery, it's about when you said you will go. It's all about timeliness. What you commit and what you do is more important than how fast you do. But how fast you do also has a high correlation. So it's about reliability of supply chain, it's about speed of supply chain. If you have a combination of both, it works phenomenal.
I'll just add on what Ganesh has said. It also depends on the category which you are buying. Okay. If you are buying a food product, you will want a delivery within half an hour. That's why the Domino's the word has gone into. Versus if you are going to buy something which is like a furniture or something, then principally you know that okay, you have to wait for some time. It's not something which is readily available, which will take time to ship. So the customer perception is also about the category which they are going to buy.
Okay, we have another.
Sorry. Can I just add? Yeah. So in my, just to add to what you mentioned, I think it depends on the category. Sometimes you also have to look at how the experience is delivered offline, right? So for some categories like furniture, furnishings, etc., even when you go offline, people take around 7 to 15 days to deliver. Sales do happen from catalogs. So I would therefore want to add that it all depends on the category. Important thing is that whatever you promise, you should be able to deliver to those timelines.
Yeah. Who's the mic now? Do you understand that?
My question is to the gentleman from Tesco. You've been doing online groceries for a while, and India, this has just started 3-4 years ago, and no one's actually really charging for the delivery unless it's same-day delivery, and that's not happening with a lot of people. And delivery is becoming one of the biggest expense for these players. So I want to know what is the best way to optimize our logistics while you still can't charge them any money.
That's a good question. Actually, so Tesco, everywhere that it does online business, charges for delivery. I mean, it does. And it does that very smartly. So, you've got a fixed number of delivery vehicles that you need to optimize, right? And delivering at different times costs you different kind of money because, the traffic conditions are different, so on and so forth. Or the demand is different on different days of the week. And that's what Tesco does smartly. It charges delivery according to the delivery slot based on the demand. The same way that airlines would charge for tickets, right? Weekend ticket prices are higher than weekday and if it's around a festival or whatever, so on and so forth. So that's what Tesco does. Now India, fortunately or unfortunately, I think we're doing things in a way that don't make operational sense. And as somebody was mentioning in the earlier session, I think they have a lot of VC money to burn. But I don't know how long that will be sustainable, and I can already see certain e-commerce companies who are migrating towards a model. Unfortunately, we have got the customer used to a very wrong thing. It's not like if it's online, it doesn't cost you anything to do business. Actually, it costs a lot more to do online business. So we'll have to do this very smartly because unfortunately, the customers got hooked onto something. It's like a drug, and they'll have to go through, de-addiction.
So do you think if we don't charge people for delivery, this model would not work unless someone will have a lot of funding?
Okay, I'm sorry we couldn't hear that question, and therefore we're going to take it offline. We can take it offline after the session because we have a couple more. Can we get a mic here in front? Yeah, mic in front here.
So what I wanted to ask Mitra guys, you spoke about non-availability of product. So what I understand is a successful SCM depends on matching demand and supply. So how do you forecast the demand for say a high fashion item and make sure that when you have the customer clicking, because even as a customer and as a seller, I've clicked 100 times and you don't have a product. So how do you also calculate the opportunity loss?
See, I think it's an interesting question. I think it's $1 million question. And,
do I get $1 million?
Yeah, I'll charge you after the session. I think a similar question was there at the back. I think that lady had this similar question. Now, how do you forecast a fashion product? Now, if you really look at research has proven that customers don't buy products. Customers buy attributes. Right? What do we mean by attributes is, for example, if you have a nice black dress, knee length, what the customer liked is, customer liked black, customer liked that style, customer liked knee length. Now you look at what are those products which have similar attributes. It's not about one-to-one replacement. So I think a deep understanding of what customer appreciates in your product makes a lot of sense in terms of throwing a product which is very similar. Imagine you throw 50 products of fashion to any customer. They will choose some. You remove some and show another 50, they will still choose some. They still choose an attribute. So I think understanding and building analytics around attributes will help fashion availability in a way that customer would relate to. So it's not an exact answer of how do you forecast. So if you ask my personal view, I think fashion business needs to react more than forecast because forecast is a myth, right? And forecasts have never been accurate. Therefore, one is to react and second is to build a competence in terms of understanding customer, understanding of attributes and providing alternates.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anish. I'm sure all of you have a lot of useful takeaways from the session. For me, I love some of the points that were made here. You design your backend with the customer in mind. Design everything with the customer in mind. Make sure that you're understanding their needs and delivering them. Don't ever lose a customer. Make sure you've got your product available, whatever you've committed. So whether it's in terms of availability, whether it's in terms of on-time delivery, make sure you don't have anything to lose a customer. Don't overestimate your capabilities and try to do everything yourself. It's important to understand what you're good at, outsource the rest, choose your partners very carefully and wisely, and you're more likely to succeed in business. And of course, as we said, those who want to sell through marketplaces, don't assume that that's an easy way out. Even that requires care, that requires management. You have to make sure you get very useful analytics and data from people like Shoploos and others who keep feeding back retailers with what's happening. Make sure you understand them how to use them. You need to focus on your back end, even if you're working through a marketplace for things like returns. You need to be able to plan separately, have a separate logistics team maybe for each marketplace that you work through. So with all that having been said, I hope that everyone here is now convinced, the talk is in e-retail that customer acquisition is the most important thing. And I hope all of you now think that back-end and operations is far more important. So how many agree that back-end is more important? And how many think that customer acquisition is more important? Wow. Wow. Okay, so it's a glamour end of the business. Customer acquisition is a glamour end. But honestly, the profitability lies in this side of the business. And so there's this married couple that were together for their first night. And the husband has been told that he must set the rules right at the beginning. So he told his wife, darling, would you like to wear my pants? So she slipped on his pants, and of course they were much too big, so they just slipped right off. She said, no, I can't wear your pants. He said, yes. Remember that I'm the one in the family who wears the pants, okay? So remember your place. So she turned around to him and said, oh honey, I understand, you're the boss. Would you like to try my panties on? So he said, okay, and he tried them on, and they didn't come above his knee. So he said, oh, darling, I can't get into your panties. And she said, yes, and you never will, unless you change your attitude. So, remember where the money is, it's in the back end, make sure you always get that right, and you're bound to succeed. Thank you very much. Big round of applause, please.